I want to thank you guys all for coming. It's Memories again, and we're at the community center. We had been meeting out at the nursing home, and that was an interesting thing. And I think that with the recordings that we're going to start with the video recorder that we have for the Historical Society, we'll be able to go out there and get some of their stories and see what, how we can save the history a little bit of what they've done in our community and stuff. And tonight, what I'd like to do is pay a little bit of a tribute to people that were part of our community, and they've left before we had a chance to get those recordings. And they were some amazing people, so it's going to be hard to keep it focused and not get a little sad or whatever. But I want to start because each and every one of us has a piece of string, and it's all bound into making our community because we all are a part of each other. And I've started a project, and it hasn't gotten very far. And in that, we'll start with some of the people that I wanted to talk about. And it's a weaving that I want to do, and it's with pieces of string of people's lives. I have a tie of Ed Brichta's, and with what he did in the community, you know, people say that he gave the shirt off his back, and he eat oatmeal for 3 days. That's how frugal he was, and he left quite a bit of money for our community, and that is still going on today. We have had a big drink of water, and it's nice to see that go on. I have his tie, and that'll be cut up and put into a weaving. And I want to show you that these are old jeans that are in this weaving, to give you an idea of what your pieces of string are going to go into. If you're wondering what this is, here's a photo I have too of possibly what it could look like. I have a scarf from Maxine of her. This was your father. Do you want to tell about this scarf?
Well, I just think I remember him going to Mason's every time, and he'd always work. They always dressed up in those days, and he always wore that in wintertime.
And this will go into the weaving. And the next that I have is, I was trying to get the Masons to give me some pieces of their things that were in their lives, and it was hard to see what I was trying to tell them. And one of them, and this goes to T.J. Brady, and he passed away this year. And TJ always was walking, and he was always waving. And before I even moved to this community, there was TJ walking and waving. And I thought, well, how neat is that to be so, you know, it just felt peaceful to watch him. I knew all was right with the world. Well, when I told him what I was doing, he kind of looked at me kind of oddly, like, I don't have anything to add to that. And I said, TJ, I always remember you have got to have gone through so many pairs of tennis shoes doing all that walking that you did. And he says, you're right. And I said, your shoestrings. So he didn't go home and get shoestrings. He took the shoestrings out of his shoes, and that's what these are, and those will go into the weaving. And you've all picked, I gave you a choice of this yarn, which I have put a part of me, I guess, in, as far as spinning the yarn, dyeing it, and putting it together. And then I gave you a choice of another piece of yarn. And I asked you to take as much as you thought you would need. Well, some of you have probably played this game before. And the gist of it is you talk and you rap at the same time. But, hi Pat.
Hi Lori.
Pat is recording this tonight to, like I said, to pay tribute to those that did a lot in our community and that we weren't able to record. So by doing this, I'm going to ask that you record them as they tell their little story. And as you talk, I want you to wrap it around your finger. And I want you to say a little bit about yourself. And then I'd like to go back and pay tribute to the few people that you would like to have documented on this film, so that it's in the history book somewhere. You know, it might not mean anything to anybody but those of us here, but I don't know, further down the road, maybe somebody will follow our path and want to see what we are on. I can't even look at a video with my grandfather. It's just too emotional. So here's my turn. My name is Lori Parker. I leaped into Blue Rapids 2000, the year 2000 in February, leap year that is. My husband and I used to take leap trips, and we decided we would leap from our jobs, and we chose Blue Rapids, Kansas to live in. That was quick. Now it's Nancy's turn.
Now, are we supposed to just tell about ourselves
Just
now,
yourselves.
and then we can later tell
Yes.
about who we want to share?
But
Okay.
this is just to kind of warm up and also document that, you know, like I'm Lori Parker and you're Nancy Nolte. And
I'm Nancy Nolte, and I moved to Kansas in 1963, met a fella and married, and then I've stayed in Kansas longer than I was in Colorado.
You should have taken more string.
you needed more. And see, I'm going to tie these together and then they're going to go into my.
Can I add one more thing? We've lived in the community since '73, and I don't think we're considered a native quite yet. Unless you will adopt me.
You're the whole native, a lot of
Sure, but we're
natives.
still outsiders too, so what does that mean?
I don't even live in my house.
We can get Al next, or me?
Yes.
Where's
Where's your string and you're
It's
supposed
right here,
to.
oh. I'm a married man, I should know how to follow instructions. I am Tom Parker, and I'm married to Lori, and I never knew Kansas existed until I met her, and she drove me here, and I fell in love with the place, but she didn't tell me about the bugs, so but we're here, we're happy, and I should have
You're
had a lot
out of
longer
string.
string. If anyone knows me, I should have got that whole spool.
I don't know why.
You gotta quit talking when the string runs out.
You're supposed to. But usually you get motivated then.
I'm Cleo Smirchek, and I was born and raised in Beatty, but I used to come to Blue Rapids a lot because I had two sets of grandparents that lived here. And then eventually I married a man that lived in this area. And I ran out of string.
My name is Gwen Turner. We moved here in 1968. All of our children went to school here and raised here. Our kids, some of them were married here and all baptized here.
Yeah, thank you, Al.
You want to go next, Al, or do you want to?
Go ahead,
Al's
Jane.
going?
My name is Gene Singleton. We moved here in 1970 from California. My husband was from here, from this area. Our youngest child was 12 and our oldest was 16 when we moved here. And they all graduated from high school here, and our daughter still lives here.
Ready for me?
Yes.
I'm Al Singleton. Jean's my wife. We met in California. I was born in Marysville and actually moved to Blue Rapids when I was about 15, I think. I went to service and stayed away for 20 years and came back, and I don't think that there's been many regrets about coming back. And we live in the Wilcox house.
You want to go next?
Who, me? Oh, okay. Well, I'm Helen Johnston. I was born 5 miles southwest of Irving, Kansas, in the country. And I went to country school, Prairie Ridge, graduated from Blue Rapids High School, and married a Blue Rapids boy, Gilbert Johnston. We bought the old Frank Griffey house, and he's gone, but I'm still living in it.
Oh, I love that name, Griffey. There's a lot of history about those guys.
Now, do I give this to you?
Yes, it's going in my weaving. I knew I would get string from you guys, even if I had to do it myself. It's
Okay,
your
I'm
turn
Jack
now.
Holler. I was born down
You
in
better be
Randolph,
rapping while you're talking.
Randolph, Kansas. In 1923, got acquainted with Maxine up here to dance. A little later than that, but I forget what year it was. Maybe we got married in 45, and we moved to Kansas City. Then we moved back here. We didn't raise family down there, south of town at her folks' place. And I've had an opportunity to do a few things for Blue Rapids that I always considered a payback time, because my kids had good education here, and we had a good living here, and the community also did one great thing for me, gave me a tremendous wife.
They did. I vouch for that.
How can I follow that? I'm Maxine Holler, his wife, and I was born 3.5 miles southwest of Blue Rapids, so I am a native. I've been here all my life except for the 4 years we lived in Kansas City. And I don't know whether you know this or not, Lori, but we lived on my parents' farm when we came back to Kansas City, and your grandma and Grandpa Herman lived out there too for a while after
Oh, I'd
that.
like you to show that to me.
Well, the house is not out there, but it is here in town.
Really? Where's that?
It's down, well, you know where your mother lived. It's about, is it the second house north? It's a big 2-story house.
I've never been up
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, that's the house.
It's the second house.
Third house, I
Okay, Nick.
Next to where Lindsay is.
My name is Victor Stanley.
He's got a big piece of string.
I have a nickname called Vic, and most of my friends call me that, but I've been called a lot of other things that aren't quite that nice. I came here to Blue Rapids in 1949, and with my dad, and we bought a grocery store. At that time, there were 5 places that you could buy groceries in Blue Rapids. Stanley's High Class Food Store, and I purchased it from my share of it from my dad on January 1st of 1956, and we continued to run the store for 40 years. And so I sold it to Marvin Feldhausen, and he operated it as Stanley's High Class for another 5 years before he got rid of that name and built a new one over on the highway. During that period of time, I married, have 2 children which were raised here in Rapids and went to school here. And we still live here, and probably live here a lot longer. Depending on how long I live. I got it.
You did it, yes, thank you very much.
And I could say something about Vic's High Class. This really should go on the historical record. As a chili head, I like salsa. I have never in my life, anywhere in the universe, seen an extra mild salsa, but Vic sold it. By God, he sold it.
That would be another whole
And
story.
I suppose that's fitting for Kansas.
That would be a grandpa story, because when we did come here many years ago, before we moved here, we thought my grandfather needed to have tacos. And so we went to your store and we bought some the taco shells and the extra mild taco sauce.
I think it was ketchup with the bell pepper thrown in or something.
But my grandfather, he would humor me. I don't think he would ever tell me no. And so he ate these tacos, except for he took the meat out of the taco shells, put it on the plate, and he dunked the taco shells in his coffee. But he did eat them.
I have a story that's a little bit different than that on the other side. This fellow came into my store and he wanted to know if we had hot jalapeno peppers. And I says, we have jalapeno peppers, but I'm not sure how hot they are because I haven't tried them. And he said, well, I'm interested in hot ones. And so we went over to the shelf and he opened the jar and he took them and he swallowed it. And he was looking the other way. And he didn't say anything. I saw him swallow them. And so I says, well, aren't they hot? And he turned around and the tears were running down. Goddamn right they're hot. I want 6 jars of them.
Man after my own heart.
Are you going to get her there?
Yeah.
How do I
thank you.
need to shift?
Here, I can.
I'll find her. There. I'm only on page 3 of the directions, so.
I'm Betty Brake, and I came here in 1957 after Clark and I married. Clark was from Blue Rapids, born and raised. He was in the service. I met him in Colorado, and we were transferred to Michigan in our first year, spent 3 years, and then I came back here, and he came back in April when he got out of the service. So we raised our 5 children here, and we're still here.
Best help brother, Julie Murray Hospital ever had.
Oh, yes, amen to that.
Even though I'm blind.
Are you ready?
I'm always ready,
Oh,
Sue.
okay.
Don't panic.
Okay, I'm Sue Stump Rowland, And although I was born in a hospital at Marysville, I was raised here at Blue Rapids. My first 4 years were spent out where the round barn is, and then my folks bought the Reddington place between Blue Rapids and Irving, so that's where I spent the rest of my life. I have probably recollections with at least 85% of the people in this room, if not 9, maybe I better say 99. There's only about 3 of you that were here when I was growing up, or growing up with me is what I need to say. I've spent 5 years away from Marshall County and married and came back here, and I'm glad I did. I wouldn't have it any other way, and I forgot to roll my string, and so I will hurry up and get it done.
But there's one person we forgot. You're wheeling me up.
Really?
How are you gonna do this, Pat?
I'm gonna sit on a chair that might be in front of the camera.
I'm Pat Osborne, married to Philip, and we both lived in Blue Rapids for a long time. My dad brought us here at the same time Vic started his store. Why either one of them thought they needed another grocery store, I don't know, but it worked out, I think, for both of them. We were living in Denver, we had our children, and we decided no, we didn't want to raise them there, so we brought them back and have been here ever since the early 70s.
Good job.
She multitasks.
Yes, she does. Well, now I have you all in the recording, so we're doing good.
Talk about Mr. Brickner. Can I tell you a little story about him?
Yes.
We moved back to this country in '49. Now, this is not anything derogatory of Mr. Brickner, but to give you a little idea of his frugality. But we didn't have any windbreak out there at that farm. It really was cold and a lot of wind from the north. Her dad, Harry, told me about Ed Brick having a bunch of little cedars out in his brome patch down there where he lived on the river there, on the bottom, and most everybody want to get rid of those little cedars, you know. So Harry said, "Go down and talk to Ed Brick. He'll get some from him." So I didn't know Ed Brick was in the moon. So I went down and talked and got acquainted with him. He said, "I see you got a bunch of cedars out there. Would you? I'm needing some cedar. Would you like to get rid of some?" He said, "You may have all you want, 10 cents a piece."
Well, he took that 10 cents and turned it into quite a bit.
That's reason enough to give my money.
I didn't buy them.
I'm going to do this pretty loose leaf to whoever wants to say different things. I told the story of T.J. Brady. Did anybody want to share a few stories about T.J.?
I can tell you about him. He was my center fielder when I pitched baseball. Thank God he could run fast. They'd hit a lot of long fly balls once in a while on pitching, and he shagged them down every time. He was an excellent outfielder. Pretty fair batter, left-handed batter, and really loved to play ball.
He was such a happy, good-natured man. Anybody else have anything to say?
When he was liturgist at church, you never knew what might come out of his mouth,
Right.
but he always had something to say, and sometimes it was funny and sometimes it not, but he always had something to say.
Well, we would, sometimes we'd come over here to Blue Rapids to church, and, you know, it depended on the hour or what I needed to do that day, and so I'd go in and sit down someplace, and TJ would come tap me on the back, and he said, "You're sitting in my seat." I thought, "Oh, okay." So I'd get up and move, and then I'd, you know, that was okay for that time, and then another time I'd pick another spot to sit, and he'd come up and tap me on the shoulder, "You're sitting in my seat." So in other words, he was playing a game with me.
When did you finally catch on?
The third time.
TJ was one of the ones that played Roquet for a number of years.
Okay.
And he also ended up in the last years of his life playing pitch here at the community center with a group of men on Monday afternoon. But he played regularly the Roquet for probably 5 to 8 years after he retired and after I retired.
Someone told me that, did he not walk? I mean, I saw him sometimes like walking to Waterville.
Oh, yes.
Did I hear a story that he walked to Marysville also?
They didn't have a car. Somebody said they didn't have a vehicle until one of the kids was in a high schooler, like a sophomore in high school? Is that, who told us that
No, but he
story?
picked up all the tin cans, you know, and bottles
Mark-
and stuff. He carried
Mark
sacks
Lasky?
full, cleaned up the side of the road.
Daryl Brooks told me that he didn't have a car for a while, he walked a lot,
Yeah.
so. I probably got it in my notes.
But he even
wrong.
walked after he had the car though, because
Right,
he cleaned
right.
up the roads
Right.
all along.
yeah.
What was
Oh,
it,
he
Nancy?
walked-
You said he walked in square corners?
Oh, yeah, he never rounded a corner going down a block. He'd square it off, still go down the block. He wouldn't just cruise around a corner. Yeah, it was squared off, right angle. Didn't you?
I never noticed that.
Oh, yeah.
I did.
Very
They had a
precise.
car when they first moved up on Lincoln Street when their children were real small, and mine was small. And that would have been in the early
Okay.
50s when they moved up on Lincoln. And they had a car at that time.
Oh,
But TJ did not have a car to drive to work. He usually had someone that stopped and picked him up on his way to Georgia Pacific to work.
Oh, carpool.
I think he told me one time that it was medical. He had to walk 10
Yeah, I think
miles a day.
that's right.
Keep that heart beating fast enough.
Oh,
That's right, in
wow.
later years.
So
that's
he'd
what-
do at least 10 miles a day.
Well, I know someone said in the wintertime he would walk around his car in the garage or something.
That's right, he did.
Well, that was
That's
a
amazing.
thing. Well, also, I like the part about picking up the garbage and stuff. I mean, that, you know, there's so many people that are part of our community that are picking up the trash, or there's so many things that they're taking care of that we don't even really realize under the surface that's going on. And that's where Jay comes in my life, Jay Turner, because there's just so many pieces that he did. You'd ask him to do something, and he was always there, just invariably. And I know that Tom, when he helped clean up somebody's house, he asked a couple of people to help him. He was right there. I know he had some other things to do, but he always made time for people in our community, and it just amazes
He
me.
was late though that day.
Was he late?
Yeah, we gave him hell for that.
we also saw
He
that.
said he was, yeah, he was down at the, coffee shop, yeah, having a little extra coffee, hoping we get done faster.
Yeah, Jay didn't drink coffee.
Ever.
I think he was probably down there BSing is what I think, or he was BSing with us.
If you
But
ever
it was
look at
interesting.
Jay's garage though, probably about 80% of what he picked up and cleaned up, he took home and put in his garage. And he went to every auction there was and had to buy these little boxes and stuff, not knowing what the heck was in them. And they're all in his garage. That's the reason they built a carport out there in front of the garage.
When we had this truck, we had Fred Hyde's dump truck, and we were knocking down 2 outbuildings for somebody that the council was, you know, saying they had to knock these buildings down. I thought, you know, we could just do it ourselves. And we had the thing, the truck loaded till you just couldn't hardly put anything else in it, and it was still a pile of wood. So we're all sitting there saying, you know, well, I guess we'll just have to make a second trip, you know. And Jay says, no, I think we can get it in there. And he started sliding, you know, boards in and wedging them in, and he was doing such a fine job, we just sat down and watched him, you know. I mean, we've been working while he had been down doing whatever. And by God, he got it all in that truck. Nobody thought there was a way in the world to get all that in there, but he did it.
And then the cabin is chinked between he and Philip and Harry Johnston. Mhm. It looks nice. Did somebody put something on that cabin also? to kind of-
Yes, there's linseed oil
Oh, okay.
sprayed
'cause
on
just
it
really
to
looks
protect the
nice.
wood.
Yeah.
It looked beautiful at Christmas.
Somebody broke the
What it was,
window.
but that was.
Somebody broke the window.
He did.
Yeah, how'd that happen?
Some put furniture and stuff in it.
The Historical Society, the EEU, had it decorated for Christmas. Were you in there the night of the lighted horse parade?
Thought it was.
Yeah. We put out about 80 cups of cocoa through that building that night. Had a lot of people in there looking at it. Mhm. Well, Jay was my hero, and I was happy with him because he and I agreed on how that cabin needs to be decorated. And not everybody has got my kind of sense of humor and my outlook on life, so I was tickled to find somebody that agreed. But he and I agreed that we wanted to do it like the family honestly lived in there, and you know what a mess it would be if you had several kids in that small a space. And we wanted to do it with the clothes in the pile on the corner, and just all of the dishes on the table and whatever had to be done. And he and I agreed on that's what we were going to do. But I don't think we're in charge. So.
Talking about the cabin, I was with the crew down there when they loaded the cabin on the truck to bring it up here. And there was electricity hooked up to it, and there was what do you call them? They had a disconnect. Meter. And you're not supposed to do that. However, I clipped a little seal and put my card there because they knew I had done some electrical work, and pulled that meter loose and disconnected the wires. And then as they pulled that thing out, there was a pretty steep hill right next to right west of it. They didn't get up there. They had to have some help. That thing stayed there. I was afraid it would slide off the thing backwards.
Oh my.
But that man from Manhattan had moved that, said that was the strongest cabin that he had ever moved. That has what they call a floating floor. It's not fastened to the rest of the building. And that's a little unusual. And if you ever look at it really close, it's very unique because they've got some crooked beams in there. Well, they had to find one of them, another crooked beam that would match that when they built the thing together. It's very, very unique. And I put in the back door. I forgot I had an old house north of the farm. Her grandpa land place when we used to own that. I put in a door, and you might be a little surprised to know that the main tool I used to get that door in there, a chainsaw. So that's what I had to use to get that thing squared up.
Talk about the floating floor. I know it's floating because it's not hooked on to the walls.
Yeah.
Because that's when I would sweep it, I would just sweep the stuff over into the
That's
ground.
not like
She had a rug from everything.
So it's in the crack on the side. No dustpan.
It's a very unique cabin. We were very lucky to have it. And Ron Merrill was wonderful to give it to us. And it was a very nice tribute to him on that sign there.
There was a large family. How many of the homes
Oh
were there?
my, I don't know. I went to school with someone later. They moved from there down to Randolph. Right next to where I lived. I went to school with.
It was a large family.
Lois Dumermuth was the youngest. No, there was one boy younger, but you remember Lois, John Dumermuth's wife? I was in school with her. She was my class. She's gone. But there was an extra building on the back side. I don't know if a lot of people knew that or not. There was a little, they had a made an addition. Now, that was later years. That wasn't one of the big family lived there. There was a little addition, a room, about maybe 10 by 10 on the back side. They tore off, of course, when they moved it.
I was wanting to visit about Louise Johnston.
Yes, I was, there's, I mean, and I don't mean to pay disrespect for the few names that I do, because it's not it's everybody's, so there's more name.
Yeah, that's just
So yes, Louise, I was thinking that's a big.
yeah. She's, well, Pat will remember, Girl Scouts. Some of you, the rest of you involved in Girl Scouts when Louise was here. I mean, she was Mrs. Girl Scout. And we had day camps here, and I mean some super day camps. Kids had fun. Jennifer Osborne still would like to redo or resurrect the feelings that she had when she was in scouting, and just kids are too spread out now. But we'd have flag ceremonies down in the square, and she has kept scouting, Girl Scouting going in Blue Rapids for a long, long time.
Great.
Yeah. Miss her. Yeah.
A lot of quick things that happened to people this last year that we didn't get a chance to. We do a lot of I wished I would have type of things.
Lori, I
yes.
want to bring up somebody that I'm sure that you don't know. Your grandmother probably does, and a lot of people in this room does. It was my grandfather in Richmond. He could tell the biggest whoppers, and he'd make them up. You'd sit around and just make up stories and tell them, and you'd believe them. And over on the corner behind, where right next to the library was a men's clothing store, and in the back room they had a wood stove set up there, In the wintertime, all the old men would gather around back there around that stove just to listen to Ed tell these whopping stories. But the thing that kind of unique about him was he dug many sewer lines in this town and dug graves for many years. When I was a teenager is when Blue Rapids actually went on this good sewer system, and my grandfather dug most of the sewer ditches in this town. And he knew just how much slope that sewer ditch had to have to get the proper drainage. And he made a big long board and had it beveled just the right angle, and you could set a level on it. That level was level, then he had the right slope on that sewer ditch. And dug sewer ditches, all kinds of weather. In fact, I remember one time on a Christmas day, he had a grave to dig, and I went up to help him, and I thought we'd never get through the first layer of that dirt, but we finally got through it and got the grave dug. And the strange thing was, I was down in the hole, and graves are dug 6 feet to the bottom of the grave. And we're just finishing up, and a chunk of dirt fell out, and I looked, and there's a coffin right beside me about that far away. But
Hello,
he was a
neighbor.
strange old man that could tell the whopping story. So Vic and some of
I
them, I'm
remember
sure.
his big grin. I remember his big grin.
I remember, he told a lot of stories, but it took a little while to tell them. He was very slow.
Yeah, slow paced.
But you didn't leave, you waited to the end of it.
So was that all by hand, Al?
Yes, that was all done by hand. Yeah. Spade and a pick and a shovel and.
That's amazing, the things, I mean, even like the water tower, we're looking at getting in, what it would be, when was that one built, the water tower up here? 1900s?
You have to ask someone on the water committee.
Are you on the water committee?
I don't know.
But I mean, how long ago was that? Probably 1910, am I safe in
At
saying about
least,
that time?
yeah,
And we're
or
still
before.
using it. And so it's people that were taking care of what they did. So it's still there for us to use.
Well, our house was built in 1860, so you know that when they did things, they did it right then.
Anybody else want to add something? I'm going to go on to Lauren Smirchek. That was tough. He was just a mild person is what he came across to me. Very special. And of course your children, you know, they've done a lot in our community. I mean, Vicki is just outgoing. And of course, I mean, you have a soft spirit also. But just they were always happy. And Dave, you know, just a very good type. But he told a story, and it would come to memories, and I love the story he told about when he was a custodian out at the school. And I think you had a flat tire.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think he rescued you.
Yeah.
And it just touched my heart that
Yeah.
it was there again, somebody was in our community helping another person. And you're gonna have to draw the picture better
Well,
because,
see, I can't remember exactly. Probably had a whole, I probably had
Your
the
little
kids all in there, yeah, and Larry's probably coaching. Oh, yeah, there I was with him.
He done that kind of stuff though,
Mhm.
so.
He just would help people out.
Yeah.
I can't
But
remember.
we lived on the farm that his grandparents homesteaded. And I suspect that if our daughter Vicki hadn't decided to come home and live on the farm, we'd probably stayed there. But I was glad that we came to town. And he enjoyed it. I mean, he never acted homesick. I think that he liked it in town. And he enjoyed the kids out at the school.
I always loved his jokes. He had a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Of course, he got some of them from Creole's dad.
Yeah.
George
Right, quite a bit.
Bill Taylor.
Have the jokes to tell.
He's another one I remember as liturgist, and just like with TJ, you never knew exactly what Lauren was going to say, but everybody always listened just to make sure they didn't miss, because if you didn't listen real careful, you might miss what Lauren had said.
You're gonna listen carefully, or you would.
Then my grandparents that lived in Blue Rapids was Fred Taylor and his wife. And I don't know, I think they were old probably when they came here, so I don't think they done anything. And then the other set was Stanberry's, Sam Stanberry. And they were in and out, I think, because they ended up in Beatty.
Did you want to show what she brought for the tie, bolo tie?
Oh, yes. She's already helped me with my weaving. I've gotten something else to add to it now, and that is a bolo tie, and there's a picture. Do I have the picture?
Oh, I stuck it back in the purse. Yeah.
With him, wearing his bolo tie. So I've got this now to add to my collection.
Because you said he didn't really like to wear ties?
He didn't like to wear ties.
So you had
that was loose enough that.
My kind of a guy.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I could add to that of my previous life with Napa. In management, they had to have ties to when you went to your trainings and your presentations or whatever, and they never took it off when women came into the force. So I had to wear a bolo tie.
Oh, yeah. Now, he has a pin on his jacket. There was,
It's probably Masonic.
he was a Mason, okay, he was a Mason also. So a lot of people in town were Masons. That was really,
yes.
I've been married for 59 years.
And I'm still waiting for my piece of cloth.
When,
From you.
Yep.
when Tuttle Creek went in,
No, just use something that's yours.
we had a choice of going to Randolph or to Blue Rapids, but Blue Rapids seemed like our home to us when we came to Blue Rapids.
oh,
We were on the border there.
Yeah.
What they call it, the border area or something, anyway.
Fringe, they call it.
Okay.
Boy, and then I've also picked out Angeline Bigham. That was another big hole in our community. She gave back again before we moved here, my grandfather had passed away, and there was a tap on the door, and of course, my brothers and sisters and all of us had come to, support my grandmother, and she came and she consoled my grandmother, and then she left and came back, and she had a grocery full of, things to make sandwiches and stuff like that for her. So she saw a need and went and took care of it. And I think that Angeline and a lot of people in our community do that. They support each other, but that just touched my heart. And I think Nancy and I were sharing that one day about how she was just the instigator of a lot of good things, from being 4-H leader to the Historical Society to even with our memories group in church was very important with
I
her.
think she went up every week to play the piano at the nursing home.
Someone said, tell me about this, was it, she could play ragtime type of tunes to get them energized and stuff out there?
I don't know that I ever heard her, so I don't know.
But and even at the church, she played lots of music. And she played for us a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
When we give
She
her-
played the blue and the gold for the Bahama Band.
And she played at the Lions Club.
Yeah. Back when.
Her husband
Was Maxine gonna do it now?
was a member of the Lions Club.
Yeah.
And so I knew him through that for a number of years. And I recall back, I don't know the exact years, we could find out. It had been the 50s. And we didn't have a veterinarian in Blue Rapids at that time. The other fellow had been gone for a number of years. And he came one day and he said, Leonard said to me, through his cattle business, he'd heard of a fellow that was just getting out of vet school. And he wondered if there's a possibility that he might be interested in coming to Blue Rapids. And I said, well, we'll never know if we don't ask, Leonard. So he and I got together and we contacted this fellow, And he said, well, I'll come to the Rapids and look over the place. Well, he came to the Rapids, but he brought another fellow along with him, and it was Harry Steinford. And so it ended up with Harry being the one that ended up being interested, and Harry was not married at that time. He was single at that time. And before he decided to come, his wife came to town as a single lady and interviewed some of us to decide whether this is where they wanted to locate or not.
Oh, so
we've
she
been
came
here
and interviewed before they
Before-
got married.
Before they got married and before he made the decision that he was going to come here as a veterinarian.
Wow, what an interesting
So
That's
that's
good
story.
idea. That's good thinking.
Yes, well, Kathy, even before, I got a phone call one time, and she said, Lori, I'm just washing windows, and I just wanted to tell you that I was thinking of your grandmother, my grandmother Whiting would come and help. She goes, your grandmother Whiting would come over and she'd help me wash windows. And I'm just sitting here washing windows today thinking of your grandmother, and I just wanted to tell you that. I mean, where in a small town can you get that kind of friendship?
Talking about Leonard Bigham, back when I was building houses, I don't know why he was so impressed, but he seemed impressed with the fact that I knew how to do that. And so he stopped one evening, he said, would you come down, would you line up a floor plan of a 4-H building that we're talking about down there? He told me what they wanted. That plan down there where the 4-H building is, with the restrooms on the side and all that, that's my plan. But that's not what I really want to tell you. Then later on, a year or two later, he came and said, would you line up a building down there for our livestock or for our cattle? Well, we walked down there one night, looked around, and it made sense where you know where the cattle barn is now down there. Well, wrong. Come to find out, we built right over the top of the main gas line. Came in and they had to dig a gas line out around us. We didn't know it was there. We had no idea it was there.
What is it?
That's before you had their permits, I
I was
guess.
gonna say, yeah.
Before zoning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Before zoning.
Call before you dig, isn't that the saying or something like that?
So, Lori,
Uh-huh.
Nancy told me about tonight's meeting and had mentioned Angeline in it, and so my niece Angie, I've always heard her talk over and over about how she had a lot of respect for Angeline because Angeline had been her 4-H leader. And so Angie didn't show tonight, I take it, I was late, but she should. But anyway, if you're doing some documentation on, I know she would, something just happened that, because I invited her to come tonight, but
Yeah,
something.
she's got little ones too, so that's
Yeah.
understanding.
But she has a lot of really special memories of Angeline in that area of her life.
I think those 4-H leaders I don't think they realize the impact that they have on their lives. I
Well-
think, yeah.
You said your grandma Whiting. Now, which is your grandma?
Elaine Whiting was my grandmother.
Cecil's mom?
Yeah,
Yeah, then see, she was my cooking teacher.
yeah.
And I've always thought about that, yeah.
Well, and then Gal shared a story too about how she taught you, were you in 4-H?
No.
Okay, then it was Joe Warders.
Yeah.
Was hers also, yeah.
One more thing. One more thing.
Yes.
Her dad, Harold Stump, out southeast of town, built a house for him later years. But anyway, we had a baseball team here. When Jerry played, all the years he played, every night before that ball game, Harold would come in with his tractor and pull that drag around. You remember that?
Oh, I remember that, yes. I do remember
Every
that.
night he would come in. With that Ford tractor, he'd fix that ball down up just
Him and
perfect.
Ken Fincham.
He really loved it, and he did that every night. I know because I used to manage the team
So he had to drive all the way from,
back where he lived down there. halfway
With the
to
tractor?
About 2 miles out there?
tractor.
Oh, yeah.
And but he never minded that bit. He loved baseball. He loved to watch his kids play. Jerry played a lot.
And he was a farmer, and even during harvest time, he was in
He'd
there.
quit and come in and clean that. I never will forget that.
But he didn't go to any of my school stuff.
there again is somebody, it takes somebody to make a community, and he was doing that. And how important that was.
Well, Ken Fincham was in on a lot of that too, wasn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes, he
Ken
did.
and Dad, I know,
Yes,
were
he
good
did.
buddies.
And he did a lot of that.
When Angeline quit doing the 4-H teaching and everything, then she went into the antiques. She always was at the antique store down at the fair.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he was.
And she was very good at that.
She loved the history. She always had stories to tell of her family and stuff. and her artistic. I mean, when we did the art in the barn, the pictures, and her son told a story about, you know, he has all this artwork and stuff that she drew, but she was so frugal that she would draw on both sides of the paper. So they have artwork on both sides. So hopefully they can, you know, get that, maybe prints or something made of all that. She was an amazing woman.
She was very active in the Shorthorn Association along with Leonard throughout all those years too. And I know I've heard Lee say that one of the first things she bought, you know, for his little girl was something out of the plaid colors that the Shorthorn always used because they were a Scottish breed, you know, so they always had, their queens always had to have the plaid on and all of this. And that was one of the first things
It's very
she did
important,
was,
yeah,
was buy the
plaids.
plaids.
Keep clan.
One year in 1955, as a matter of fact, when we had our first child, and we went to Oklahoma, Wyoming, to see my mother. And on our way out there, we stopped at a restaurant. This woman spoke to me. I think we were in Nebraska. This woman spoke to me, and I thought, now who was that? It was Angeline.
What was she
and
doing
her
up there?
husband were out there. They had gone out for a Shorthorn meeting or something they were doing out there.
Small world.
North Platte. And so I thought that was nice of her to speak to me because she didn't know me that well. We weren't moving here yet, but she had met me a couple times when I
Well, she
visited.
knew the Brake family
Yeah.
forever and knew you were
Yeah,
coming
and she knew
into it,
Clark.
yeah.
She and I would, well, we'd take off in the pickup on a nice day and in search of cemeteries or old schoolhouses. And sometimes we got into some little messes, but we always got through them. But she'd say, oh yeah, I know where that cemetery is, and some of the roads we'd go over were not real trustworthy, but we made it. And so we have a lot of tapes, audio tapes of her and us traveling around in that old pickup. And
Well, I remember when we
Yeah,
were
it's
doing the
just-
documentation of all the houses moved up from Irving.
that's right,
We
yeah.
had Angeline in the front seat driving, my grandmother, who's 92, in the passenger side, and Nancy and I are in the back, and we're taking, so every place we stopped, I don't think the back seat of those car doors ever got opened as many times as it did that day. We'd jump out, take our pictures, and then jump back in, and of course you could hear those two women going, the stories that they had about all the different people that lived in those houses was amazing. If we could have recorded that
Yeah, we
day,
should have, yeah.
we would have gotten quite a bit. We did get a lot of pictures though,
Mhm.
and the stories of the different people, but.
Well, at our last EE meeting, they were talking about the lady who was moved in the house because she couldn't get out. Did we ever figure out her name, Pat? Do you remember?
I think we have the name.
Yeah, we have the name.
And then we also, in the
We
house.
talked about that, but I can't remember now.
I'm gonna say Rizzo, but that's not right.
It was Rick Berg? Was it Rick Berg or something like that?
I think you're
yeah,
right. And the
Grace,
house-
was it Grace?
Grace.
Yes, yes.
And it's right, maybe north of where Connie Nugent
Yeah,
lives.
right.
Mhm. Yeah, it's in another scrapbook.
Why couldn't she get out of the house?
She's too big. She
Oh,
was too
too
big.
big.
I always heard that story.
Yeah. She and her caregiver were both in there, weren't they?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. I'd
Probably
like,
so, they wouldn't have probably left her in there alone.
but she was a huge woman.
If I keep eating at Hong Kong, I might.
Yeah, you might.
Well, they kind of moved our house, they changed our address, does that kind of count?
Yes, they did, didn't they?
Hey, I can put that, I'm documenting this.
I had a guy, I ordered a new camera from a New York camera store. And the guy calls me to verify the order a couple days ago. And, you know, New Yorkers sound like they're from some foreign country, you know, you never can, you know. This guy's all business, you know, he's fast, he's got this clipped accent. He says, but there's a problem. I show there's two addresses for you. I mean, I don't understand. It's 711 I said Gypsy Street, and 811. Well, which one is it? Do you have two houses? I said, no, it's just one. I said, I would make a real long story short, the city changed the address. Why, the house moved? I said, no. Just realigning it on the map. Well, which address do I send it to? I said, it really didn't matter.
Can't figure that one out.
And it just was completely beyond his comprehension. You could just send it to a place, and it'd get there. That don't happen in New York. I don't think he ever quite convinced him. I said, just send it to 811. But I was reminded of a FedEx guy showed up. I haven't changed the address of my mailbox. FedEx
We
guy
have some
shows
that
up
are
and,
hard to convince that that's the correct.
well, it doesn't matter to me, but I mean, the FedEx guy shows up. He says, I got a problem. He goes, is this 711 Gibson Street? Is it 811 Gibson Street? Or does it even matter in this town? I said, yeah. All the above.
All the above.
All the above.
Talking about addresses, our address is 212. It has always been 212. But if you know, there are no 212s anywhere. So our address really, I think, is 208.
Let's change it.
We'll take it up at the next council meeting.
Let's get this.
Yeah, and our poor neighbors, when they saw we were 212, they decided they must be 214. Well, they are really 210, I'm sure. But we have always been 212.
All right, you councilmen, get on the roll.
3 of you here,
Why
not
are there
something.
no two?
Well, because there's only enough.
We could go to therapy on addresses.
There's only enough room
I
for so
see.
many
Yeah,
houses, and
right.
there's no 214 or 212.
Well,
Except on Main Street, is that right?
I'm not on the street getting people again.
Me neither.
That's the mailman, he knows for sure.
We're lucky enough
He knows
to have
what
the same
everybody does.
mailman that we had on the farm, so if we get the farm address on our letters, they still come here.
Jerry Pope.
Jerry,
It comes out,
Yeah, we're on the rural, that street out there, I don't know what it.
Well, we're rural town.
Well, we are, not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to have a street now. There's no such thing as a rural route.
Yeah, no, it's
Anywhere.
it's got a street number,
Jerry Pope's
but Jerry just knows that we're not out there.
but how much trouble, I mean, you guys had so much trouble changing from 711 to 811 or whatever it was. How much trouble would I have changing from 212 to 208?
The same amount. But you could always say, it doesn't matter. Someone in this room sent us a letter that said, was it 811 Gibson, 711, or whatever.
And it got there.
Well, we had a postmaster here at one time, and he didn't last very long, but anyway. And she was really gonna go by the book. And she sent at least everybody on my street, and many people in this town, she sent letters, and she was right, you should have the number on your post office box, for Pete's sake. You know, if you have a new carrier, they don't know that yellow one's mine or gold one's mine. We did used to have a number on it, it's not there anymore, or her name. But anyway, there would be no more of this crud. And we thought, and if you look in the phone book of everybody that lives on my street, some of them live on Western, some live on West Avenue, some live on West Street.
And some live on Southwest.
And Southwest. Well, the name of the street is Western, it says so on the post. And I was the West Avenue person. But anyway, she sent us all the letters, and then it was gonna be rural route one,
Well,
something or other.
And to top it off though, if the right address wasn't on it,
She
somebody
wasn't
sent
gonna
it
deliver
back
mail,
to,
yeah.
and,
The same lady postmaster caused me some dollars
Oh, yes.
because she returned my mail to my store for sales tax revenue back. And as a result, I didn't file until they sent out a revenue agent.
So you were
And I
tardy.
was in arrears for not having paid. And it was strictly because that location where I was at we were using the street address of 602. And of course, 602 would actually be out in the center of the park. Actually, that's the second building that's there. But according to her figures, it actually would have been 608 Main Street. And so she just sent back those the blanks for the sales tax returns.
Well, that's what, well, anyway, there was about a riot.
well, Marge Lawless got so mad at her. She went in and spent about 10 minutes giving her this, is only Marge could do. She went outside to her car, remembered something else, so she's going back in again.
And then she was the one that had that little I-beam, and so when you came in, a little bell rang. Well, then there were some people that were ducking down underneath her,
I
so
don't
they could
think I
stand up
even
and
knew
scare her.
You guys are
Adults.
bad.
I don't
yes.
think she was scared long.
No.
You ran her off, huh? Another name that somebody had shared with me was Bob Woodyard.
Woody,
Some of the things he did. Woody.
through the church, I think, there was a lot of things he did at the church.
Oh, yeah.
Just quietly came in and took care of whatever and went back out. You didn't know Bob Woodyard? And then the Habitat House up here on Main Street. He and Dr. Lawless did the majority of that Habitat House. I think that was the first one
Well, they had
in our county, wasn't it?
a Methodist men's group.
Okay, and he was associated.
Well, I think most of them were retired. I don't know, but Dr. Lawless, I think. And they would go around and do handiwork for people. And we had, when Al worked on that grant to rehabilitate houses, and I won't mention the name, but anyway, someone didn't qualify for it because their trailer wasn't on a foundation. And that was one of the stipulations. And they desperately needed work done, and Dr. Lawless and Bob Woodyard
And T.J. Brady.
and Jay, I think, built that.
Yeah.
And Al laid all the floors. I mean, this was just all volunteer. And Laura Musil decided we needed kind of an outreach fund. And I don't think anything ever happened about that anymore, but anyway, she got enough money to do that, to work this house. And then a little bit of money was left over, and we put a couple of doors in somebody's house for them. But, and then it went defunct. But anyway, they were very generous to do that, the Methodist men.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of them there were. You probably knew that.
I think there was about a half a dozen that showed up to put the roof, a new tar roof on that trailer.
I do remember though that Bob did do a lot of work on that, Habitat House.
One of the things that we did for this recording tonight was to document those names. And what I'd like to do is Nancy and Pat, I guess, and maybe a few other people you want to share about the video recorder and what our goals are with that?
That sounded like a good idea to me. So she took half the phone book and I took half the phone book, and we called everybody we could think of to call, and we got quite a few people to start playing. But I don't remember what year that was.
Why did
But
you
it
start
wasn't
playing?
a specific time.
Why did she feel the need to start playing?
Well, she just thought there was something we could do.
Just
And
fun.
she said they did it in Marysville, and she said we could pay a little bit, and she said we could, use it for a good cause, whatever would happen to be a need in the time, and we would just decide that. But she said, let's see if we can't get people together to play cards. I said, okay, Blondie, that's a good idea, let's
Didn't
do
it
that.
start out just women?
Just
And
women.
then they went to couples.
Yeah.
And they had bridge.
Bridge and pitch.
Yeah.
Bridge and pitch.
Now, some of the monies did it go towards tennis
Oh, we
courts?
did.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
things.
A lot of things.
Yes.
There was always something for the
Something,
city.
always.
It was, it did a lot of nice.
We had the Blondie Breeding Marathon up to this last year, and we could not find anybody who wanted to be in charge of it, because it took several people to line up the couples and everything.
I didn't know that
And
was
nobody
going
wanted to
on,
do
or
it.
I certainly would have done that.
We
I didn't
just,
know it wasn't, until too late, because I could have done
well, I don't know, anyway, the ones who were in charge of it, they were supposed to put down if there was somebody who would do it, and nobody seemed to be interested in doing
Well,
it.
they voted on who they wanted to do it.
And they
Apparently
just
nobody-
didn't do it, nobody wanted
No.
to.
And the couples really had diminished.
I think
Well,
Vic
there
will
was
vouch
one
for
year
me on
that I
that.
did,
There
it
just wasn't
wasn't
enough
easy
couples to.
There weren't enough
to
not
get
enough to
them
make
lined up,
eight,
so
not eight
that
couples
you
to
don't
get
have.
together.
You're playing the same couples over and
Yeah.
over.
So, but if I'm just thinking, one
One
night,
night
I could
thing.
pull it off one night. So could you guys help get that going for me?
But just anyone can come.
Yo,
men,
yes,
women, or-
yes, I'm thinking of someone said they do a potluck in Waterville. So I'm thinking if people wanted to bring something, the snacks or whatever, and we could,
Just finger food.
yes.
Well, for a while, we were doing that
At the
here.
last of the year, weren't we?
At
The
the
last
end of the
one.
year,
Yeah.
we're doing that.
But I thought,
So how
you know,
long how much
Waterville-
time?
Waterville came over, and Blue Rapids and Waterville, and we played in that big room.
Oh, I never did there.
Yeah, we did, but then there was a problem when they started to charge, and Waterville got upset, and Waterville
Well,
would
they
come back.
started charging for the room.
And then Waterville got upset, and they never did come back.
Oh,
And-
so, yeah, we have to think about the charging of the room. But I wonder is there a place that can be, how big of a spot do you need?
Depends on how many you have.
So where could we go that they don't charge?
We could go to the new museum, but you might want to wait till the weather warms up.
Yeah. Then they would really want to donate money now.
Presbyterian Church charge for their fellowship hall?
Probably.
Do they allow us to play cards there?
There's, I don't know what the restrictions are, they're fairly strict though.
What about the 4-H building?
They charge.
You could get lost for
St.
that.
Mark's Parish House, you could hold quite a few tables in there, and they would just say, give us a donation, you know, would.
You could have a lot of tables
And I
here.
could hire it
Yeah.
and not have to pay anything.
One night, we
Episcopal, St.
we
Mark's
had
Episcopal
about
Parish
tables
House.
set up in here one night, I think.
In this room here?
Yeah.
We could have a lot of
I
tables.
bet you.
Yeah.
You had
Well, you
20
can go in the council room.
I had
too.
24 people in my little teeny tiny dining room one night. Do you remember that?
Well, what we,
I think you had 2,040 ones.
My dining room is
yeah,
teeny
you can always,
tiny.
you can always
tiny.
go into the council room, or there's
I
no
didn't
charge for up
count.
and down the hall.
I couldn't
That's a
distinguish
thought,
them.
yeah.
The senior citizens play cards here in this room, the last Saturday night of every month.
But there's only
That's
4
what
of
I
us.
was trying
And
to-
there aren't any more than about 4 or 5 who come. Once in a while, they have 8 or 9. but
I played last time. and
How many were there here?
There
About
were
4
4
or
of
5?
us. 4 of us. That's how many
It's
was
gonna be
there.
hard to find.
So it's gonna be hard to get, I don't know.
Defining a night, that's the problem.
Could you play at the BFW?
They charge too, don't they?
Do they charge?
But
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
not as much.
But for the museum?
Are you getting that
Purpose,
part
they
for the
might let you.
museum or Vixel part, the whole thing, or what do you, I mean, I just.
No,
Vix.
we're not.
You want a tour?
Huh?
You need a tour.
No, I just,
Yeah.
what are you actually, what's?
Vic's part,
Vix
Vix
part.
part,
Yeah.
okay, where all the tables were with all the stuff on.
yeah.
I think
How
you
you
would find
do
this
that?
one big enough for first, if we get, if we
I think
outgrew
so,
this
too.
How do you
room,
get rid of all that?
why we'd be a good shape, good shape.
Remember that to get Pope down there.
You could put a lot of people in there.
Yeah,
A lot of
there would be
tables, a lot of
plenty.
tables. One, two, three, you could put, one,
Yeah.
two, three.
5 tables.
You can always move any, oh, you can.
So would you guys be game to help us?
Well, yeah, but this was
Give you-
actually.
Yeah?
What would you do with the senior citizens if we were losing some?
Well, you would just pick another salary.
I mean, I can pick another set. I mean, I'm not, it's not in stone, I'm just trying to get.
It'd be nice if you could just combine it in one.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those people would.
Two thoughts. One is to honor Blondie, and I didn't realize that you guys had, that is a cool story, split.
Yeah, we split the phone book in half, and I called half, and she called half, and,
Because you did.
yeah.
We did not call it the Blondie Bean until after she died, did we?
No, we did not. I don't remember what it was called,
Just the marathon, I
I
guess.
think. Yeah. When we
I
started.
just thought it was so cool that there was always, I mean, there's little things that you can look around at. I know in the chamber room, there's like a little tea cart that you guys had bought to, you know. from-
We bought a lot of things with
Yes.
that. We bought-
And I heard the tennis courts, I thought, well, how cool is that?
Didn't you buy a punch
So I thought it would be a
bowl?
neat
We
way
bought a
to,
punch bowl.
Punch bowls and,
to also get
there's several kitchen.
the energy going for the museum. You know, that's the community thing, it's not just for a small group of people. Same thing is, it's gonna take a lot of us to get that going, and so I thought, well, what a neat thing, so.
For last amount of money that they had, they gave it to KSTS at Washington, the dog place, right, I'm on the board. I don't think there was very much money for that.
Yeah,
But
we-
they did,
they
they
could
did.
try to
It was given to the chamber, and then the chamber must have given it,
Might be.
because I made it, I gave it to the chamber.
Okay. Chamber used it for that, painting on the Fred Hyde's building.
Well, that was that big amount. This was just, I think, it was about $15 or $20.
Yeah.
or something. It was just interest. Just a little accumulation.
Well, we
And
got
so I talked
interest,
to,
now we gotta get a night.
Your wife and so on.
Will you bring your, Saturday night people?
Thank you, Laurie, for that invitation.
That would be some people to come.
Yes, it would. When
They
you
can
had,
sing.
they could. When you had your group, didn't people, like 4 people or a group could play cards on it one night? You didn't
Whenever
all
you
try to
wanted
be here
Whenever
at
you
the
were-
same
You
time?
arranged it, they would name the host, the hostess and her partner and the other people that were to play with them, and then they arranged
They had to
the
get
night.
together.
But the big problem was,
Yeah.
for some reason, no one could ever play, and then you'd have 3 different people wanting to play with
Yeah.
you in one month.
Where do you get
That's
all
when
the
I
decks of
quit. I
cards and
said, no,
stuff?
I can't
Oh,
do it.
the host furnished that.
Yeah, the
And,
host.
See, there are only 4 people play. The idea was that you'd just play during that month, and you would play anytime you wanted, and it would just be 4 people.
It'd be like Gwen and I were partners, and you and Nancy were partners, and Helen and Maxine were partners, and on and on. And when they gave you the list, and this is what these people did that prepared the thing, it said January, February, March, you know, and who was the hostess and who you played.
But that isn't what we
Yeah,
want.
I want
think what
one
you-
time.
But you just want one
It'd be
time
one
for
night
everyone
with
to
everybody
come.
coming
The
and.
men have about, between probably 15 decks of cards, maybe more than that.
I've got lots
So,
of cards too.
So,
there'd be plenty of cards that are around.
I've probably got 30 decks of cards at home.
so I have the cards then, what else do I need?
I think you take
Tables.
service.
Well, there's tables here.
There's
Do
only
you
eight-
need
eight-
card
eight-
tables?
8 card tables, yeah.
That'd be
8
enough
card
at
tables.
first, I bet you.
Well, you just don't know.
You never know. We'd have to find out.
And then what else do I need?
People.
I'd be
Well,
glad
you
to-
just
Tables are
need
main.
pads to keep score.
What
and
kind of
pencils.
cards do we play?
Pitch.
Pitch is the
Probably.
easiest one.
Pinpoint.
Pitch?
Most people know.
Pitch or pinochle.
Pitch, pinnacle seems, if I remember right, it's hard. Is pitch hard?
Well, could each table, each group sit down and play what they wanted to play? Could-
Like this have to
Oh.
pitch and this have to
That's
pinnacle?
really-
Would
That's
that
the way
be
they do it
better?
at Waterville,
That's
where they
the
have
way,
it
yeah.
together. One group on this side plays pinochle, and then this other group on the other side plays pitch.
How
And
long
they
does
stay
it-
with that same game, they don't switch games, they stay with that. If they change partners, they change on that in their section.
Okay.
They aren't switching from pitch to pinochle.
They still do this?
I'm not sure you'd even want to get into changing partners, and so that gets.
But they do that just once a year over
Will
there.
someone invite the mailman for me?
But
The young new mailman?
I was gonna say, Waterville has a Tuesday night for pinochle and a Thursday night for
He
pitch.
likes to play cards and he didn't know that we played cards in this town.
Oh, where does he live? I didn't even know.
Good thing you explained that. Tom was looking at you. He's
No,
got,
he lives,
Onega.
is it Onega? I thought he lived,
I thought, well, you go.
further away than that. I thought he lived out by,
Helper, but they had an eye problem that I couldn't do anything about. And he said this any number of times. Well, that was about 2.5 years, and he made the announcement, well, I'm gonna apply for med school at KU, and I'm going back to school.
How
He
old were
went
you
back and
then?
became an MD and then an ophthalmologist.
Oh, man.
And from there on, that's,
I think you know
he, well, he still is writing stories, writing articles, and doing speeches about ophthalmology all over the United States yet today.
Fantastic, yeah.
So,
Vic's talking about Dr. Bob Reineke.
This, oh, go ahead. This reminds me too of alumni weekend. It could be a real full weekend if we just let the people know that we're available for like the interviews. But how do we make those connections then? The individual, like you would talk to him and ask him to come earlier or something, set up a time or?
well, you know, he was here last year for their 50th.
Mhm.
I don't have any idea whether he'll come or not.
Well, his wife's gone. I thought maybe
She's
he
gone
might
now.
come every year
Well,
now.
he might.
As he gets older, you know, you think I'll go in there, go this year again too.
Mhm.
I would say if he's coming, why, you know, I would definitely try to be able to set up time for it. He would do it too.
I'd be glad to.
That was very good. I like that.
Very good friend of mine.
Let's go home. I'm tired.
What are we doing next? Are we just meeting again next month?
Come up with something.